I'm Professor Henry Bwisa. I'm retired from the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, where I taught for over 35 years. I was teaching entrepreneurship and related unit subjects like project management and marketing and things to do with business, entrepreneurship, agripreneurship. At 70 years, in 2024 June, I was retired. Let me stress that I was retired. I didn't retire. The rules retired me. Although I thought I was now at my peak, I could simply walk in class and we discuss things that I already know and I have done, and therefore I made theory become practical. I was starting to enjoy it at my peak, if you wish. When I just wanted to go to gear 5, I was told, go home. But the entrepreneurship in me and the passion for teaching and the training didn't leave me. So I promised myself that I've been retired when I'm not yet tired, when I'm not yet expired. So it was like, I took it like a career change. Or a shift if you want, from the classroom, from the lecture hall, I now came to the market, in the field, and I have now decided that I'll continue teaching and training practically, and therefore here I am. I am in a eucalyptus tree plantation. Look at this eucalyptus and you will notice that there are men that are sprouting. That means that this is not the first generation of the eucalyptus. The first generation are what you see, these stumps that you see here. Stumps like this that you see, the big stumps like you see here. These stumps are the first generation. The first generation of my eucalyptus. The first generation took about 7 years, 5-7 years to mature. And then when it matured, market was very scarce. You see, market dynamic, market changes, market fluctuates. So when you plant something that you'll harvest in 6 or 7 years to come, you are risking. The chances that the market will be still there are low. In other words, you really cannot plan accurately for 5 years. If you have to plan for 5 years, then you beat that plan into annual plans, and in some cases, even into quarterly plans. So there it is. When my eucalyptus trees matured after 5 to 7 years, I lacked market because market was just saturated. When I was planting in year 1, there was market. For example, the Kenya Power had a low supply of posts. The timber industry had low supply, or the building industry had low supply of posts. And therefore, people rushed into it, including me. In 7 years, technology does not stay idle. Technology dynamic. There is, for example, a lady called Lorna. Isn't Lorna, what's the name? Lorna, okay. This is a lady called Lorna in Kenya. She was a banker. And then she realized that there were no poles, building poles. And what did she do? Lorna Ruto, yes. Lorna Ruto, but no relationship with the president, Ruto. So she resigned from banking, and she went into waste management. started converting waste, like plastic waste, into building poles. And therefore, competition for the natural poles, ensued. And there are other ways of, making poles to compete. So this is what I'm saying, that in year one, when we were planting these eucalyptus trees, we thought the demand will stay constant and even increase, and the supply will remain with the poles. But there it is, technology comes up, takes over. So in short, when my first generation trees matured, I didn't have any, the market was saturated, prices were low. So indeed, I cut them and sold them at throwaway price to timber, to Kenya Power. People need posts. Why did I do that? I wanted to convert this acre of mine into climate smart crops, short season crops. So I cut the entire population, but now to grow those short season crops, we had been told in theory, we have been lectured, say that eucalyptus are not very friendly trees to the soil, and they spoil the soil, so to speak, and you cannot interplant eucalyptus with another crops, because the crops will not survive. So what I was doing was to uproot. I wanted, believing in that narrative, I wanted to uproot the whole stems so that I convert the place into crops growing, like grains, like legumes and all that. But then the cost of uprooting these stems became exorbitant. So exorbitant that I decided, yes, let me, as they were, let me just plow the land, planting 2 months maturing beans, and the returns from those beans will now give me capital to pay for uprooting the stems, and therefore the next season my beans will grow better. So that is what I did. I decided to plow the land and planted the beans. And as the beans, they are faster growers compared to the eucalyptus, as they started growing, I saw the stems started uprooting, sprouting, like what you can see here. They were sprouting, but they were not interfering with the beans, because they were low and there was enough sunshine, and I had put there some organic fertilizer. You can see I always spread these fertilizers here. You can see organic, biomass, and then my beans started doing well. But then I saw that those sprouting trees, I'll call them second generation, I thought, why not? I can, rather than focus on poles for power, Kenya Power, I can now focus still in the building industry, but I could now focus on these poles for construction of houses. One, normally these poles, when you are doing storage houses, you will need poles to, when you are going from slab to slab, you will need poles to hold the upper slab. And there is demand for that. So I said, let the poles grow, those who are spread, let them grow, and they will create for me those poles. In which case, my land will now be generating both income from the eucalyptus trees as well as from the beans. So that I did. I also found that in rural areas, people fence their lands with barbed wire. And when you fence with barbed wire, you have like a post, maybe 2 meters or 5 meters from 5 meters, but in between the posts, you drop in, they call them droppers, thinner sticks like this, which are strong. So you call them droppers. So I can cut this, and it goes to become a dropper. So as much as I can sell this one for the building industry, I can sell this one for droppers. So I saw now a number of revenue streams from my land. Eucalyptus, the thinking that eucalyptus can only be a source of income when you sell the post to Kenya Power or to the constructors. Now it diversified, and so I left the poles to grow. I started thinning them up so that there is one on each to allow the ground to breathe, sunshine to reach the ground, so that my beans could also survive. And therefore, here it is, I discovered. You know, like I can say one time, I was interviewing Matadali Manji, rest in peace, the guy who was East African guru of the biscuits. He told us that as a business person, he was not doing research and development. He was doing experimentation and development, trial and error. And if I could tell you his story of how he beat the white settlers before colonialism in Kenya in terms of bread, in terms of bakery, let it be another story. But he was trial and error, and he produced results. So here I am. I did not go to any laboratory to start doing this, but just by experimenting and whatever, I have now those products. And now, as they grow, they start making branches. And when they make those branches, they are going to make a shadow, a canopy that now makes the ground, the rays not reach the ground. But I'm not interested in those little branches. So I have to trim them so that I remove that shade, that canopy that prohibits or stops the rays from reaching the ground, as you can see. And indeed, when I do that, it turns out that in fact the branch becomes, the post becomes stronger, because I don't know, maybe the branches compete with the food. That one is, I'm not scientific on that. So now I trim them. You can focus on anyone. We're going to see somebody doing the same. Let's walk and see. The people are now trimming it, and we shall they will just watch how this one now is trying to climb. Look, he is climbing the tree, the pole. Look at that, he does. And you can see he has tied his panga in the waist, and is climbing just using his feet, his hands, and there he is. He has reached the little branches, and look, the panga, the machete, is hanging as he goes. He has tied it in his waist with a string, and there he is now there. You can see he will now start trimming. Now using the panga, he has his panga. He tied it on his waist. Therefore, now he has now held it. He has now held it. There he is. This gentleman, this young man, never went to any college to teach him how to climb a tree that has no branches. It is like inborn talent if you want. And there you are. Yes, there are those people who might think it is risky, it's dangerous, but this is his trade. You can see how he balances and which branches he cuts. He doesn't start cutting from the ones that he's stepping on, because if you cut a branch on which you are standing, you will fall. So he goes right in the middle and starts cutting the ones on top, cutting those ones on top, trimming them, and they're falling down. We are doing this so that we allow sunshine to reach the ground, because we have already planted our beans. Now look at that. He now comes systematically. He went first of all up to the top in the middle. You know, yes, one can say the danger of the branch falling on him. You know, he has already estimated it. The way he cuts it, you can see they are not falling directly to him. They fall by the side. And there he is. Look, he finishes by cutting the ones below. He went up to the middle where he could balance, and now he's coming back. You can see the rope in his waist. That rope has got a panga, a machete. There he goes. There he goes. You can see he's going on, removing all those small ones, but going on. And soon he will now, look, he's still going. He's still going and removing the small ones that disturb his way through. Now he's now taking his panga. Look, using the string, you can see the panga. The panga is now using it, collecting it. And there he is. Now he starts cutting the branches, trimming the branches. He's starting from the ones that are above him as he steps on the ones that are below him. And there he is. And he makes sure he does not go to the level where it is like dangerous for him to fall with the tree. This is the tacit knowledge. This is the talent that they have, the knowledge that they never give you in Harvard, they never give you in the University of Nairobi or Jomo Kenyatta University, not even in Mavanga technical training. This is watching, when they watch the parents do it, and then they actually do it. So now you can now see that tree, the branches that were making a canopy on the ground, disturbing the rays from reaching the ground for my beans, they are now removed. So you can see therefore now that I've discovered that yes, we can use our eucalyptus trees or tree plantation in a number of ways. I've counted one. The traditional one was to make it grow large so that it goes for posts for transmitting electricity, that's one. Or posts for making timber, or timber yards, that is two. That generally was the traditional use. But then I have also added that now we can use this post in the construction industry, in the storage building construction industry, to hold the slab of the floor before it matures, it solidifies. We can use the smaller ones on the fencing, the road areas, barbed wire fencing as droppers. But now, what are we going to do with this? This, you can see, we have a branch. This branch, dried up, becomes firewood. These small ones, in my language, Bukusu, they are called visanju. When you are going to cook, there are different foods that you are cooking. You may cook just porridge, you may cook tea, you may cook kideri mixed, beans mixed with the with maize grains. You may cook ugali. Each of that food requires its own amount of fuel. Number two, you have to light the firewood. And to light the firewood, you need some effort, some fuel. So when you take the leaves, the dried leaves, and maybe lay them down first on the ground, and then get the small branches called visanju, and put on, and then you bring the bigger sticks for lighting the fire, it is easier. So we can now, the leaves are going to light fire, the leaves and the twigs, the visanju, the chihu, the wood. So we are using the entire of this branch that has fallen down in terms of firewood. And now, if we are doing so, we are now also, climate change compliant, because with this firewood, people will now no longer need to go to cut the trees in the forest to make charcoal to come to make firewood. So we are again providing that opportunity, that these are not indigenous trees that are climate friendly. In any case, these eucalyptus trees are negative because they suck a lot of water and all that. So if we can plant them specifically for use of that and then remove them, it's easier than, let's say, taking an indigenous tree in the forest, cutting it for firewood and disturbing the ecosystem. So here it is there for now. We're now looking at the many uses of the eucalyptus plantation. We're just, this is what I've discovered staying in the rural, working in the rural, and revising, looking back at where I've come from in my teaching. So there we are. There's another use of the same cuttings, trimming that we're doing. You can see these ones have already dried. And they will decompose. So if I come and I've already planted my beans here, when they come now to weed the beans, they'll be turning the soil and covering with the twigs and the leaves, and that will now be making compost. I'm not going to use any inorganic fertilizer in this land because I already have organic fertilizer. And you are aware that today organic farming is being promoted, because when we use inorganic, some of those chemicals will go through the food, the plant, and you will consume it in the plant, in the fruit, in the whatever. So when we use organic, then we're actually doing organic farming. So there you are. We are making that organic manure within the eucalyptus, and therefore it assists the undergrowth, my beans. We can also, these leaves, we know the eucalyptus leaves are medicinal. Some people say you can make Vicks out of them. Those inhalant, healthy inhalants. So if you can now carbonize these leaves, and how do you carbonize it? In my compound, I've made a kiln. You know, the same way the locals do their charcoal, burning their charcoal. The principle is the same. That you lay your biomass, your wood, arrange them in a stack, then completely cover it with the lumps of soil so that no air can go in, and then you light it, then you are carbonizing. For me, I have made a kiln where I will now go, these dry ones and even these green ones, I'll go drop them in that kiln, cover it and light it. It will carbonize and it will make what we call char dust. It will not be charcoal, it will be char dust. Now with that char dust, I will now mix it with some ratio with the cassava. You can, if you can see far away there is those cassava plantations. I make porridge from cassava, like the rotten cassava or the cassava that's not fit for human consumption, but it has starch and therefore it's a binder. So when I mix it with the char dust from here, I'll now, the charcoal briquettes that I make from here will be in demand, particularly for people with ailments. I have been to USA, I've been to Britain, I've been all those, my age mates, 70 and above. They sit in their chimney and they use those charcoal briquettes and they inhale the little smoke, if there is. They are actually inhaling the properties of the leaves of the charcoal. So when you go out there and say, my briquettes are made from eucalyptus leaves, it is a little more expensive than your briquettes that are just made from other materials. So you can see again, we are talking of the uses of your eucalyptus tree plantation. This is a lecture that I would have delivered in a lecture hall, but here I am delivering it in the field. If there are any points that you need to carry home, is that there is a myth that eucalyptus trees are bad for plants. You cannot, they destroy the soil, and you cannot actually plant anything else with eucalyptus trees. And therefore I'm saying, yes, that is true when you are looking at it from the traditional aspect. But entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship says, let's think again. There is no problem without a solution. And therefore, necessity, as also we say, necessity is the mother of invention. So, the problem of the eucalyptus trees destroying our land, what solution can we make? We can make the solution from the trees themselves. And therefore you have now seen that young men, watch him again for the last time. Look at how he goes. He starts now to climb. Watch him. Watch a little.
Na tukaunda makaa. Na tukishaunda makaa, tumepata hapa faida mingi sana. Tumepanda maharagwe, tukipata hii kuni tunaweza tukauza tukapata tena pesa. Tunaweza tukakata hii miti tukaundia nyumba. Tunaweza tukakata hii kuni tukauza tena tukapata pesa.
Hii mambo yote ulifundishiwa wapi? Ulijuaje hizi mawaidha yote na mazuri haya yote?
Haya maneno yote yenye nimesema haya tulikuwa tukiishi na kukaa. Bado tunaishi na kukaa. Haya maneno yote kukaa alikuwa anatueleza.
Viewers, you can see tacit knowledge, indigenous knowledge, we call it IK. this young man was staying with his grandfather. His grandfather could have been my father, because at his age I'm his uncle. Now his grandfather was my father, and therefore we are saying that from time immemorial we had this knowledge. We never systematized to call it scientific, but look at what he's saying. And therefore, a generation that he has taken over, you know, succession management, if you want. He has told you the many uses of the eucalyptus trees. He has just narrated it to us. And therefore, it just needs popularization, and people will now also know the awareness, rather than stick to one aspect of the tree, for example. Na hii kupanda hii kitu, wewe ulianza ukiwa mdogo au umesoma, yani unapanda tu kama nyani?
Kupanda kwa hii miti, tukiwa wadogo tulikuwa tunaenda kutenya kuni kwa forest. Sasa si wenyewe tunapanda kwa miti. Sasa tukazoea hivyo.
You heard what he said, that when they were young, they were being sent to go and fetch firewood in the forest. It was necessary because they started cooking. And as we say, necessity is the mother of invention. So what did they do? They forced themselves. They invented ways of climbing the trees to pick the dried twigs to send home for firewood. And now he has made it a trade. He was going to school in the 1960s. The punishment would be to dig, to go. We had like a garden in the school, and you go to dig, to plant. And in that way, many of us, I don't know whether we are our generation X or whatever, we developed a negative aspect of agriculture because it was a punishment. It has been changing, as he says. Now they give you an axe in his time. Today, we have what we call competency based curriculum. I went to a school somewhere now. Agriculture is now becoming a real, people plant. Children as up to plant, they start loving agriculture. Sasa wewe, ukiwa maoni yako, hii agriculture ni wachache tu walichukua hiyo.
Yeah.
Na wengi nyinyi kitai ni kitu ya rural, ya in the system. Whether you are in urban or you are in rural, we can also do urban agriculture. We can do vertical farming in agriculture, and we get the food. Rural agriculture, smart agriculture, and all. This one who himself loved agriculture at school adds that we should need extension people to go to visit them in their homes and teach them more about agriculture. All we are saying, therefore, is that we are agreeing that agriculture is the backbone of our economy, and people like this are living, like he says, they come to do chores in agriculture. He has his own plot at home. He's growing agriculture, and therefore he agrees that agriculture is important. Him with his machete, this is not a very strong pole, and therefore if he goes too high, it can fall. So he's balancing it out. He knows where and how to start, and there he is, trimming it, and therefore now we are getting our all the trims falling down. We're going to collect them and then see how to use them in the many ways that I have already said. So, what can we conclude? That one, eucalyptus trees, the potential for eucalyptus trees to generate incomes is not exhausted. Dwelling on non-eucalyptus trees for posts, electric transmission, for timber is not exhaustive. I will add, for example, that when you go to the industry where they are, let's say, making timber from eucalyptus with those what we call power saw, when they cut, they actually produce sawdust. Sawdust produced in fine, very, very fine, and also the rather bigger ones. Now, that is like the fine ones can also be converted into charcoal briquettes. The bigger ones, they will make litter for chicken. And when the chicken stay on it and the droppings on the chicken, it becomes manure, organic manure. It goes back to the farm. So eucalyptus is an important tree. We say there is, every cloud has a silver lining. The cloud that we have on eucalyptus, complaining that eucalyptus is bad, it removes the water from the soil, it disturbs whatever. Think about it as an entrepreneur. Think about it as an agripreneur, and find that there's also a silver lining in that cloud called eucalyptus. So, you have seen a whole circular economy generated from the eucalyptus tree. We plant the seed, the tree comes up, we can generate manure, organic manure from it, and it goes back to help again the eucalyptus tree itself to grow. So that is circular from that aspect. Thank you for listening to me. I have been your Entrepreneurship and Entrepreneurship tutor, Professor Henry Buisa, retired but not tired, retired but not expired. Watch our other episodes.